Darlings, if we need to learn one thing for the times ahead, it's this. Learn to take yes for an answer. So there was a boycott called for today, a one-day boycott to flex our spending power and to basically show what we are capable of by just putting a call out on the wide internet where everyone can see it and seeing who responds, getting as many people to respond as possible. And this is an idea that has been around that, I have personally advocated for a long time, but usually there is giant pushback to it. And I can see why there is pushback against things like calling, for example, general strikes without larger groups behind them, because there is a lot more required for a strike. But a boycott, not the same thing. The efficacy of marches and voting is a topic for a different video, but we can all agree that our actual power in this system can be broken down into two categories. One is our labor, two is our spending, right? We are both producers and consumers of everything that happens in this system. And since, as I mentioned before, to withhold labor is much more difficult for people because of the precarity, because there is no labor power and not time to build it in the time that we need to fix things, right? But what do we all do? What do we all have to do? We have to spend. And the system needs us to spend in order to keep running, in order to keep the gears running. Now, we've seen what the boycotts of McDonald's and Starbucks have done. They are crying out to the heavens that people stop and just start buying their stuff again. And that's because of what we did. And a one-day boycott, there's a million reasons why one might want to boycott, right? And people probably got involved for any one of those reasons. And this particular strike showed even more that something that is called by who knows who actually called for it, right? But it made it to the mainstream news that it was happening. We did that. We did that. We reversed essentially how things usually go. Usually it goes top down. They tell us something's going to happen and we respond. No, we said we're going to do this one-day boycott. And the media had no choice but to see what was happening and respond, and therefore actually spread the idea even more. Now, beyond just the idea of flexing our labor power, taking one day, even one day per week, right, which is thoroughly doable for almost everyone, where you don't buy from any of the major corporations. Instead, turn the dollar in your own neighborhood, buy small, buy thrift, buy used, right? That is something that is doable, and it is a practice that people need to get more into, because what the system most wants from us is to be idle consumers. They want to just keep throwing ads and have us buy whatever they put in front of us. They don't want us to think about where the money's going to, what that corporation represents, what that corporation supports. They don't want us to think about any of that. They just want us to be idle consumers. What I have said and what I will continue to say is that people still believe that there is going to be some sort of giant storming the Bastille moment when the time for that is long over. The thing we have to do is not look for the one big thing. It's the little small things. It's the million little small things that we can do. And boycotting, changing our spending, that is something actionable. That is something we can do, regardless of even the amount of money that we have, right? Because poor people spend their money more fluidly because we have to. And yes, people will say, well, I have to buy X, Y, and Z thing. Okay, great. On that one day, just that one day, buy it from somewhere local. Do something else a little bit different. Trade something, barter something, go on buy nothing, just for one day. Practice. And that practice is going to lead us to see, actually, wait, I can do this all the time. I could do this once a week. I could do this forever. And I say this as someone who hasn't gone and shopped for anything on Amazon in 8 years at this point. Darlings, the solutions are there, and they're not big and complicated, but they take work. They take us believing, and they take us changing ourselves. Everybody wants change, but nobody wants to change. And that's the only thing that's going to get us out of this. So take yes for an answer. If it's not your thing, if you don't believe that a boycott is going to work, okay, well, you could make a bunch of videos and put up a bunch of content about how it's not going to work, or you could just keep doing the work that you're doing and let people do their thing, right? If you like it, I love it. The kind of unity that's going to get us out of this situation is not going to look like a bunch of particular groups. It's going to look like people doing the thing in their own lives. And those groups will form. Those groups have already formed and are continuing to form. But the things that we can do as individuals that don't require meetings, that don't require groups, that just require us doing the thing, that is power. That's real people power. If someone is doing something you personally don't believe in, is not how you feel called to spend your time, fine. But take yes for an answer. If they're working towards the same goals and actually working towards the same goals, let them do it. Because we all need to be doing something different, right? Except for, again, things like this. This is something that we all can participate in. You know how they're doing like death by 1,000 cuts? Like taking away this and wrecking that and taking one little thing away after the other? We can do the same thing to them. And we should start. And things like today are a good way to practice, to flex that muscle.